Hello? Hey, can't can't hear you.
As we get people in, are you there?
Oh, wrong.
Hello, everybody. I'm just so you know, Michael, because we're not doing a traditional show right now, you are live. So don't say anything bad.
Oh,
Or do. I mean, it might be great for ratings. See, I can only do this because Michael has been a longtime guest of all of the Nomiki media ventures. It's sort of it's kind of like what happens in this world that we live in, this media world we live in. Here we go. I don't see you, Michael.
you don't see me. How
I
about
don't
now?
see you.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Ooh, a beard? This
COVID
COVID beard.
COVID beard. Tell me when I can shave it off.
It's not up to me. You be you.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to do a quick intro. This will go out in a.
And this is where will people find this?
They're finding it right now. They're peering into your eyes as we speak. This is the Nomiki show live on Patreon. It's going to go up later on Twitch as well, which is what the kids are doing. And it goes out onto Patreon as well as our podcast form. So for those of you who are live on YouTube, thank you for being so amazing. I'm just going to double check some tech stuff because normally, as you all know, we don't film on Mondays. And so I'm manning it myself, which is maybe I should have planned a little bit better. But we realized impeachment was happening, and I immediately thought who better to have on than our dear friend Michael Isikoff, who is, if there's anybody to talk about impeachment, it is you. He's the chief investigative correspondent for Yahoo News. He co-authored with David Corn, Russian Roulette, the insider's story of Putin's war on America and the election of Donald Trump, which was published a couple of years ago in March. Congratulations on the 2-year anniversary. You were also the author of Uncovering Clinton, a reporter's story, and also The Selling of the Iraq War. I mean, there's a lot of books.
Hubris.
Hubris. I'm reading this wrong. Yes, that makes more sense. Hubris, the inside story of spin, scandal, and the selling of the Iraq War. That might be a good book to read on our book club. We have a book club, Michael, that we launched in January. So that might be a good one.
I'll speak at your book club.
Would love that. We want to start doing live events for our book club
right now. Have your book club members buy the book, then I'll speak at the book club. How about that?
It's part of our book club. Great moment for a pitch.
All right.
You can join our book club at The Nomiki Show on Patreon. So patreon.com/The Nomiki Show. And you have 3 book options. 1 book a month, 2 books a month, or 4. And when the author is available, we have conversations with the author or other people about the book. Sometimes they're not alive. And you receive a book in the mail. And that's part of the process. It's, I'm a little over my head, but it's okay.
I'm in.
Fantastic. All right. I'm just going to, double check that everything's working here. Yep, it's working. Okay, good. This is the new era, Michael. It's streaming, it's doing things from your living room, it's playing games with, members of Congress for hours. This is the world that we're living in. But I'm going to start off with a question before we get straight to impeachment. Would we really be living in this world without Donald Trump, the first reality TV show president who made reality TV show hit another level?
Interesting question. I thought this was going to lead to a COVID question because, the question in my mind is, will we ever go back? Will we ever leave our homes again? Will we ever go back to going to offices, interviewing people in person, seeing people, watching things? I mean, this has so much changed our lives for so long that this has become the new normal, what we're doing now. That said, your question about Donald Trump is totally on point. And, I'm so ambivalent about this week and this trial.
Great person to have on. Thanks.
Yeah.
No, I'm
because,
kidding.
I think that so many of us just, despite the fact that Donald Trump was great for ratings, great for book sales, great for podcast hits, great for everything, we all wanted to be through with the guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all wanted to move on. Enough of Donald Trump. And here we're going to be spending a full week talking about Donald Trump again, which is the last person that I think a lot of us wanted to be talking about or hearing about. That said, you're right. I mean, Trump is, there was a really interesting column by Margaret Sullivan in the Post today about Jeff Zucker and Donald Trump. And, the fact that it was Jeff Zucker who made Donald Trump, right?
How did this get lost? I mean, I know folks know, but my immediate response, Jeff Zucker, who just announced he was stepping down from leading CNN at the end of 2021, how convenient the timing there. But Jeff Zucker was the head of NBC when The Apprentice was the highest rated show.
He made The Apprentice. He was his idea. He put Trump out there and made him the media star that he became, which became the launch pad for his run for the presidency. And, 2015, early 2000, through the campaign in 2016, CNN, played him nonstop, all his speeches, all his rallies. Why? Because they rated well. And as Ben Smith shrewdly pointed out, Zucker is a ratings whore. He's always been. That was always his guide star. Now that is the nature of cable TV and network TV. It's all about the numbers. I could tell you stories about that from my own experiences there at NBC. And and then at some point when he figures out that bashing Trump rates well as well, he turned his network into a let's bash Donald Trump every day, to the point where they were totally nonstop and turning people off left and right because they abandoned anything that smacked of dispassionate journalism and just became an anti-Trump station, all for the ratings. I mean, contributing to the polarization in our country. I mean, when has Brian Stelter or Jim Acosta questioned Zucker about his own role? That's the interview I would like to watch, but they won't do it because they follow Zucker's marching orders.
I mean, I remember, and we were friends back then when I was a Bernie surrogate and I was on CNN. And there's this one in particular, there's one memory I'll never forget. I was I think it was a debate. I think it was a Republican debate, and CNN was hosting it, a primary debate, or a town hall or something. And I was at CNN headquarters in New York that night on a panel with Gloria Borger and Anderson Cooper, and I believe not James Carville, the other one. They used to have a thing together. Carville and the other Democratic.
Mary Madeline?
No, the man that he used to work with. Democratic.
I know who you're talking about.
I'm just thinking forgetting his name. And I was at an event for Bernie Sanders as a surrogate in Washington Square Park, in which it was, to note, the largest presidential rally in history. And I remember the only way I could get there, the fastest way I could get to my CNN hit, my segment on this panel, was if I took the subway. And so I took the subway. I was like, they barely had any time to put me in hair and makeup. And I get there, and all we're talking about is Trump. And then they asked me some question about Bernie, and they just laugh him off. And I said, I literally just came from the largest presidential rally in history, and you're laughing off Bernie while you're talking about a man who at that point wasn't even I mean, who knows what he was polling at? Like, it was ridiculous. They were just the Trump phenomenon. And, I hate to, everybody's played out that comparison a million times, but it was so visual to me. And then the next day, sitting in a studio, one of those like little small studios that they have at CNN, staring at an empty podium of Donald Trump while Bernie's in the corner with 30,000 people at his next rally in Brooklyn or Long Island City or wherever it was. It seems to me like the ratings are great until the business model gets in the way. And what Bernie had, obviously, he got in the way of the capitalist business model. But then you have Trump that it worked like two things at once: tax cuts for the wealthy and great ratings if we can get him there and make him look like a populist. So I don't know. I mean, the Parler news that came out today was shocking.
What's the Parler news?
So there's a story that came out, and if I had a producer today, I would be able to show this to you, but I'm not that effective. That the Trump campaign organization was offered a stake in Parler, this right-wing media venture, up to 40%. That was their negotiating stake. And it is now under, of course, investigation as we lead into the impeachment. Just illustrating one more business opportunity, pay to play, conflict of interest, whatever you want to list it as.
The Trump campaign,
they didn't take
it.
But they engaged. They engaged in this conversation.
They engaged, but they didn't.
As far as we know, unless there's some reporting that I'm missing, this broke right beforehand.
I'll be interested. Yeah, who reported this? Where
I will pull it up right now. I believe it was BuzzFeed.
I'll look
but yeah, I mean, so as we go into this impeachment, how does this impeachment, other than it being about inciting a coup, how does this impeachment differ from the last one? Like, is there anything that we're going to learn that was not unveiled in the last impeachment of Donald Trump?
Well, it's two different issues. Obviously, they're dealing with a set of facts, but look, this is clearly more emotional. This gets to the violence of January 6th. And, we will see the video images of the police officer being, assaulted and caught in that doorway and the people smashing through the window and, the powerful testimony about, how the members had to flee literally for their lives and duck, under desks and in the chamber, hearing the sounds of gunshots. It's emotional, powerful stuff. That said, how much do we learn beyond what we already know about the horrific events of that day? Well, we don't know whether we're going to get any witness testimony yet, right?
In general, or just, Trump has always said he's not going to.
For this trial. Here a couple of starting points. Trump's conduct through the whole thing is horrific. Starting with right after the election and the big lie about the election fraud and, whipping his people up for weeks, about this mythical election fraud and all the evidence they had, and they had nothing. And it's clear that they had nothing that in any way supported what Trump was publicly saying. So he was lying to his followers because he couldn't accept the fact that he lost. He just couldn't accept it. So this was for psychological reasons, he pulled off this, incredible fraud on his own people by feeding them stuff that just wasn't true. We know what he said that day, but we don't know the full story of what happened that day. And I'm more interested in that, especially since we kind of sort of know the outcome of the trial, right? He's not going to get convicted. And that's a problem right there. Because
so why is that? Like, why?
Because they don't have the votes. It's a
why couldn't we?
Political trial, and that's not where Senate Republicans are.
Because of the numbers needed, but also like why? Mitch McConnell 2-3 weeks ago, not even,
right,
said that he does believe that Trump incited violence.
Right.
Kevin McCarthy said he didn't.
Yeah.
This is insanity. Like, this is the Republican Party that's been so good at keeping.
All right, but fine. I mean, we can spend all our time talking about bashing the Republicans and how how slavish they've been about Donald Trump. We know that. Okay.
Yeah.
The bottom line is you can't get a conviction.
Right.
Now, the Justice Department, guidelines for bringing an indictment is you only bring an indictment when you believe you can obtain a conviction. Now, this is a little different, but, it's analogous, right? There's a reason you don't bring charges when you can't, you don't have good faith reason to believe you can win a conviction. It's not about just making yourself feel good that you're doing the right thing in terms of constitutional. It's what's the outcome. The outcome here is disqualification from office so that Donald Trump never has to cast his ugly shadow on the American public again.
Right.
What is the likely outcome of a trial in which you don't get a conviction? Number one, headlines the next day, Trump acquitted, the last headline I want to read. And number two, you've emboldened him and his supporters so it becomes more likely that Trump will stay with us and could run again for office and be a presence in American political life. So the outcome of this trial is likely to be the exact opposite of what the House managers are trying to achieve, even though an impeachment for a sitting president doing what he did is entirely justified here by Trump's conduct. There's no excusing Trump's conduct. Mm-hmm. But if you can't use the impeachment process to achieve the goal you're trying to achieve, then I have serious questions about the advisability of going through this. What I would much more likely see, and which I think would have much more impact on Donald Trump's future and the future of his supporters, is a 9/11 style commission with subpoena power that actually does investigate everything that happens day, gets into the White House that afternoon with witness testimony from the people inside the White House. What was Trump doing that day? What was he telling his supporters while he's seeing on, what was he telling people when he sees on TV the mob invading the Capitol and that Mike Pence has to be escorted out for his own protection? What was he saying? What was he doing? Was he approached about deploying the National Guard or not? Right. Did he offer an opinion? Did he weigh in with the Pentagon one way or another? We don't know the answer to that question. If you read the House impeachment manager's brief, after their eloquently stated summation of what of the issues at trial, it's all based on press reports. They had no testimony. They had no documents. They had no emails. That's what a 9/11 style commission could do. You make it bipartisan so you have Republican buy-in, keep out the crazies. I don't want Matt Gaetz on there, but I want sane Republicans tethered to reality. You get an unanimous report that says, A, the election fraud claims were a total fraud themselves. B, here's what was going on inside the White House this day. Here's how Trump reacted. Here's how he was responding in real time. That would be very powerful. That would have a longstanding impact, I believe, even on some of his own supporters. That would do more to get Donald Trump out of our political life than this impeachment trial, which is going to be rushed through because the Biden folks don't want the distraction. Yeah. They've got their own agenda that needs to be dealt with. And that's not excusing Donald Trump. That's not, allowing him to escape accountability. If you know that at the end of the day, you're not going to get a conviction, he's going to escape accountability, right? So this trial is not going to achieve what the people pushing it are hoping to achieve. So that's why I'm deeply ambivalent about this.
What is it going to take to have some sort of 9/11 Commission-esque
legislation?
Event?
Legislation.
It will. So that's after the impeachment, essentially.
What I'm afraid of is that after this trial, there will be no appetite for that, because the appetite will be lessened, right? Because, we've already dealt with that. We had this whole trial. We explored but no, you didn't. This trial, especially if you don't have look, what did they do last week? They said they invited Trump to testify. What's Trump's testimony going to get you? If you had nothing, if you didn't do the investigation, that you could confront him with other witness testimony, with emails, with documents, everything to show him to be the liar that he is, then you just get Trump,
right,
spouting off. It was.
And what's strange to me is, I understand that we may not have any witnesses, but Mike Pence, any of the security
let's
staff,
have Mike Pence's testimony.
Hell, any of the congressional members that aren't AOC on her Instagram live, which was extremely valuable, but there was a whole house that was under attack, and Mike Pence, who was taken in. What I want to know is, was Trump, as you mentioned, and I'm completely unfamiliar with how this process works, but was he taken to the Situation Room? Was he, when the vice president is literally put at risk, you'd think that they were put into that.
Back to the 9/11, during the 9/11 Commission, they interviewed Bush, they interviewed Cheney, they interviewed Rumsfeld, they interviewed Wolfowitz.
They were the heroes, Mike. They were the heroes.
Yeah. Well, all right. But my point is that you can get, if you set up a body, they can get answers to these questions, right? And, but this trial isn't going to do it. It's not going to get those answers that I would like to see. So
what do we expect to happen this week? Anything?
God knows. Look, what we're hearing is tomorrow is going to be a debate about the constitutionality question. And then there'll be a vote, and, narrow by 51 votes. There will be at least 51 votes that the procedure is constitutional and it will move forward. And then Wednesday, the House managers will play their videos.
The videos meaning the
videos of the events of January.
Not the press videos, their internal camera, the security videos, or
else? I don't know. We'll see. I think it's going to be a lot of what people have picked up on Facebook and other social media. We've seen a bunch of them. I suspect they've got some that we haven't seen. So it'll be very, emotional stuff. The police officers who were, literally, fearful for their lives as this mob overwhelmed them. Yeah. I think 140 of them are still suffering injuries from that day. There's been a couple of suicides, one death. It's, it was horrific for those Capitol police officers. But, analogous to a trial, that's kind of like the victim impact statements you get at sentencing. It doesn't go to the fact. So there'll be a lot of emotion, but are we going to learn anything more beyond? We know what Trump said. We know how
can anybody try? Moving forward here, this is maybe just flexing some sort of legal, exercise. It's a legal exercise. But what if one of the officers or their families tried to get somebody convicted for murder, or Trump for murder?
Well, I think that you could. I'm dubious about a criminal incitement case against Trump, because the standard outlined by the Supreme Court it's a pretty high bar for incitement. There's got to be a direct connection.
It's got to be like an Aaron Burr moment.
Words and what's that?
It's got to be like Aaron Burr.
It's got to be direct, and nobody, that I've talked to, it would be a stretch to try. And especially, Trump's got the out, so we got to go up there peacefully and patriotically, and then say, well, he said peacefully, and the other stuff. Anyway, but what if there was a civil lawsuit from the families of some of those police officers?
Right.
Then it becomes preponderance of the evidence. It can be a RICO, racketeering, conspiracy.
Interesting.
You could win, I think, one of the families of the police officers or anybody injured that day could bring a pretty strong civil lawsuit that would bring it in the District of Columbia, and you could get a monster verdict that could, bankrupt Donald Trump for life. And I think if I were Trump, that's what I would be most worried about. And if you want accountability, that would be a pretty powerful and effective way of doing it.
On that note, moving forward, I mean, is there any pathway? There's been a conversation about, and this is obviously something you've written about extensively, about investigating Trump, whether it's the Attorney General of New York, Tish James, or U.S. Attorney pushing in Southern District, or other places that I'm personally not aware of, to dig into the finances of Trump and get a deeper understanding of how.
Well, that's what Cyrus Vance is doing, right?
The DA of New York.
That's his investigation, what he's got, how close he is to bringing a case, how much he could get Trump, through that means. We don't know. There's been a lot of people get all excited about it, but, let's see. What do you got, Vance? Let's see. I don't know.
And are there other avenues? I mean,
well, there's the Attorney General in New York, Letitia James, but that's largely civil. I mean, it's unclear to me that she could bring criminal charges, especially if they overlap with what Vance is doing.
But could it uncover something we're not?
Well, I mean, you get the tax records, there could be stuff that Michael Cohen has pointed them to about overinflating assets to get loans. I mean, I don't know how sexy that is, but you could nick him or nick the Trump organization with that. How much Trump would have been, you could pin individual culpability on Trump himself would depend on the email trail and the testimony, which none of us have seen. So we just don't know. Wow. I did think you mentioned Southern District, but there was a story the other day that the Southern District is finished with the Stormy Daniels federal election case, and they're not going to bring charges against Trump. And one of the reasons is I think their chief witness was Michael Cohen, a convicted perjurer. So that's not, when you try to sort of parse, what you could bring to trial, he's not the kind of witness that you want to be reliant on in a major criminal case. Now, do they have? So clearly they didn't have much. I never thought much of that as a criminal matter against Trump anyway. I think Cohen pled to it because it was an easy plea and they knew they had him on other stuff, which he didn't want them to go into and didn't cooperate on. So he gave them that. He gave them that. I think the Georgia investigation could have some promise. The phone call to Ratzenberger, the firing of the U.S. attorney in Atlanta, his calls to the U.S. attorney's office to try to get them to do something, to find him the 11,000 votes. Come on. Well, all I need is 11,000 votes. Come on, give me a break.
It's just like fake Twitter followers.
Votes.
I just need 11,000 Twitter
all right,
followers.
That's all you need is 11,000, Mr. President. Sure. We'll find that. It's not that much anyway. Come on. I mean, I could see something arising out of that. But on his finances, that's pretty much in the Cyrus Vance ballpark, and I just don't know what he's got.
But before we wrap, you have written extensively about foreign interference and I mean, some of our conversations 5, 6 years ago, before anybody was reporting, you were talking about election machines, and we were on a vote count, I should say, in different elections in primaries, I believe, or was it the general? I can't even remember at this point.
Don't ask me about 5 or 6 years.
It was 5 or 6 years ago. I'll just say, before folks were talking about this, you were on top of it. And I'm curious, like, how much there is left. I mean, when impeachment happened the first time around, limited information was released to the public in terms of potential foreign interference, and it was within the confines of Senate Republicans what they wanted to address. But it seems like, based on a tremendous amount of reporting, much of it coming from you and others, there's just a ton left out. And like, it doesn't seem like Russia or other foreign actors in China now have stopped meddling. And so I mean, not necessarily with Trump, but just,
Yeah, no, listen, it's a huge issue. And it's the Russians, it's the Chinese, it's the Iranians. I mean, a lot of it, the social media stuff, certainly we saw it big time in 2016, and
Yeah.
I think our foreign adversaries, the Russians and others, have gotten cleverer about the way they do it, so it becomes harder to find and harder to document. But there's every indication. I mean, look, that Solar Winds hack by the Russians, U.S. intelligence was completely blind to that. They didn't know it was going on. And that's, a scary thought when you think about it, because how much else is going on that they just don't know about. And that, in this day and age where it becomes easier and easier to remove your fingerprints from anything, it becomes scarier and scarier about what can be done.
And financial structures that,
yeah.
Crypto, other forms that can, media platforms built off of crypto now seem really, with hashtags like transparency, but ultimately it's not that transparent.
We had one of my colleagues had a really good story a few weeks ago about, hundreds of thousands of dollars in Bitcoin that went into the accounts of one of the, Stop the Steal folks, right, who was involved in the rally. So where'd that money come from? How did, who was financing that?
I don't know how much you're paying attention to this either, but it's happening on the left too. I mean, there are plenty of people who are parading themselves as being leftist, or have been parading themselves as leftists for years, who are now moving further to a, red-brown alliance and working and encouraging
to a what
folks,
alliance?
Red-brown, right, like a right populist, left, pseudo left populist, although it's more libertarian left, or however you want to put it, or maybe they were left and then they moved over, and they're on these platforms that are, they're urging people to join these new platforms that are not being, quote, deplatformed for, quote, censorship, and the platforms are built off of crypto. There's a lot of discussion about this. It's worth talking about offline.
Okay.
But
all right.
Yeah.
Well,
but anyways,
send me some stuff on that, because I am not up to speed on that. So
Michael,
I'd love
and
to
anybody who wants to send Michael Isikoff, let me tell you, if you don't know his work, oh man, like, talk about a laser focused brain that knows how to follow, sniff out, wrongdoing and funny money and all the things. But of course, you, I believe, truly broke the story of the Clinton scandal. That thing.
That thing. Yes.
That's how I learned about you at a
right.
14 years old. Know me. Michael Isikoff, a pleasure. Is there anything we could check out right now that you're working on?
Well, I mean, my Skullduggery podcast is, we're going to be doing daily impeachment analyses. So, for podcast listeners, skullduggery, you know, and so that'll keep us busy this week.
Fantastic. And they can check that out at all the podcast
Wherever
places.
you get your podcasts, skullduggery.
Okay, perfect. We will put that in the information section when we repost this. And you have a lot of fans in this chat. I have not been checking it because I've been.
I bet you that you're getting a lot of negative comments.
Oh no, it's we have great moderators, very good moderators in our chat.
I'm happy to see it all. So. Fire away, folks.
Well, we'd love to have you back on during our regular live show where we can ask questions and have a greater format. But thanks for joining for this special impeachment #2 special and for making us all feel like this could happen again. Thanks.
Okay.
Take care, Michael.
Take care. That was fun.
Always fun.
All right.
All right. And to everybody else, thank you for joining us. I know this was sort of impulsive Nomi saying we want to do an impeachment show today, but I had to reach out to our dear friend Michael Isikoff. He's always brilliant and thoughtful and real. And thanks to Michael for making me feel like it can happen again, and it probably will. To everybody else, we will be back on tomorrow. We have a great week lined up. You definitely want to check it out. If you're not already, make sure to click like and subscribe and share this on social media for those who were surprised by our Monday quick interview about the impeachment. And join us at patreon.com/The Nomiki Show. Become a member. It's how we make these things happen. We can do them more often. We can do better specials. We can have people on call other than me who just gets really impulsive. The patrons are making this work right now. So grateful to all of you patrons. We don't inherit lists. We don't have big investors backing our shows. It's just me, a wall, and some purple lights, and a microphone, and a camera. That's what's going on right now. Through the week, we have a great team, but it's really because of our patrons. So join us at patreon.com/The Nomiki Show. And of course, join our book club. We are covering The Truth Has Changed this week. That is authored by Josh Fox. It was a one-man show he did. He did on the road for a long time. And I think it just came out in film series too. So you have all the different mediums for media, I should say, for Josh Fox. And he's going to join us for our interview with him. If you haven't received his book yet in the book club, you will very soon. But we're talking this week about The Truth Has Changed. And oh my, that book is timely. So go check it out at patreon.com/The Nomiki Show. Love you all. We will see you